Well, Reverend Leighton Ford has a closer relationship with Dr. Billy Graham than most people who are missing him today. And Reverend Ford, thank you for joining us there in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Lorna, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be talking to you up there near my birth city of Toronto.
Well, you were 17 years old when you first met your future brother-in-law, Billy Graham. You went on to marry Jeannie. Let's just talk right now. How is his family? How are the Grahams doing?
I haven't spoken to anybody myself except for his oldest daughter, Gigi, that I called this morning to confirm that he had died. Jeannie's talked to Franklin's wife, Jane, and she's talked to Bunny, another of Billy's children. For ourselves, it's someone asked Jeannie early this morning. She's 14 years younger than Billy. Said, "How are you feeling?" She said, "Well, he's where he wanted to be and where we wanted him to be. So he's with the Lord. So we miss him. We miss his voice, but we're thankful for him and glad. You know, he's been 99 and a half, and his vitals been good, but he can't see or hear. So we've wondered how soon would it be before the Lord called him. So it was a surprise that it was this morning, but it wasn't a shock.
It wasn't a shock. There has been a committee for years planning this home going to heaven. Some of those committee members passed away. Reverend Graham outlived many of them. What do you know about the funeral that will be capturing the world's attention for Reverend Graham? What can you tell us about it?
We haven't heard anything official yet, Lorna, but we understand there will be a release soon. My expectation is that there'll be a service here in Charlotte. It will probably be about a week. And planning, and because of people who want to come here who are friends and colleagues and others from different parts of the world. But we know there will be a service by invitation. And then the Billy Graham Library here, I think after that, for a few days, we'll invite people to come and pay their respects and have their memories.
And then nationally, the world will be watching. The cameras will be welcomed at all of that.
I'm sure they will be.
You traveled, you were kind of a troubleshooter for Reverend Graham. You were a very close confidant. What are your memories about the great events that you traveled to with him around the globe?
Well, I'm glad I was a troubleshooter, not a troublemaker, but I was advertised once as Billy Graham's father-in-law instead of his brother-in-law. So I hope I didn't bother him too much. My early memories are, interestingly enough, one of them from Toronto. 4.5 weeks at the CNE. I had just finished seminary, and I knew that God had called me to preach the gospel. I didn't know how that would be. And Billy said, "Why don't you come to Toronto, your birthplace?" And I started with him there. And in those days, the 1950s and 60s, it was not so much an organized series of events, though they were well organized. It was a move of God, a move of God's Spirit, speaking, I think, to the hunger of those days, the days of post-World War II, the days of the Cold War, the uncertainty in the world, and his message of the gospel, of God's love, of God's care, of the hope that we have in Christ resonated with people, along with his personal gifts. I mean, he had this wonderful voice that was so strong and so compelling. And he was a learner. He asked good questions, but he spoke with authority of hope and new life and transformation in Christ. And was able to do that in the most loving way, not only here in North America, but around the world. I remember a Chinese PhD student who said to me one time, Billy Graham came to China, not with a closed fist, with an open hand. And that was his attitude of coming to learn from others and coming to share the good news of Christ around the world. I think that's what he'll be remembered for. A man of grace and a man of humility, because he had these wonderful gifts, but he always knew that God had chosen him, and he would ask, "Why me?"
All right, Reverend Leighton Ford, brother-in-law to Billy Graham there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you for those memories. Thank you for reminding us that Jesus is what Billy Graham was all about.
That's how he'd want to be remembered. I asked him, I said, "How would you like to be remembered?" I did what I thought I should, preach the gospel.
All right. Reverend Ford, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorna.